So I want you to just picture a setting for a second.
Okay, I am picturing it.
It is a Friday night, March 4th, 1966. We are in Elmira, New York.
That is a very specific time and place.
It is very specific.
Right.
And the lights are low in this apartment. It is late to, almost midnight, actually.
Right.
The windows are wide open because it is unseasonably warm for upstate New York in March. You can actually hear the tires of cars humming on the wet pavement outside. It feels, it feels normal, relaxed, sort of like a campfire chat, but indoors.
But of course, the person doing the talking, the one who is the absolute center of attention in the room, is not exactly from around here.
Not at all. We were diving into session 238 of the Early Sessions, Book 5 of the Seth Material. And actually, before we go any further, I have to get the official business out of the way. This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to explore, to question, and to learn.
And we definitely should mention that all credit for this incredible material goes to the Seth Material and the publisher New Awareness Network. They're the keepers of these archives, the source code for everything we are discussing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So why this session, right, out of the hundreds and hundreds of sessions Seth gave over the years, why are we zooming in on this one random Friday night in 1966?
Well, I think it is because it really disrupts the usual narrative. I mean, when people think of channeling or mediumship, they usually imagine these high-drama thunder and lightning events.
Right, like floating tables or whatever.
Exactly. Or they expect these really vague, flowery, spiritual platitudes, the whole love is the answer kind of thing.
But session 238 is just so domestic. It is messy. It is literally the mundane colliding with the mystical in real time.
It really is. It is basically a masterclass in how high strangeness operates in a normal living room.
So let us look at the menu for this deep dive. We have a painting that seems to watch you back. We have an energy personality essence who absolutely hates traffic noise.
Which is just so funny to me.
We have incredibly specific medical advice that involves drinking more coffee.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise. It completely flies in the face of what we usually hear from medical professionals.
And we also have a job prediction that came true, even though the people involved lost their notes and completely forgot the prediction ever even happened.
It is just a fascinating look at how Seth navigates the room. I mean, he is dealing with skeptics, he is dealing with literal back pain, and he is dealing with career anxiety. It is like this cosmic advice column, but with very real mechanical physics behind it.
So our mission today is to explore those interactions.
Yeah.
How does Seth interact with his witnesses, the guests who sit in on the sessions? How does he handle their doubts and their health and their futures? Let us just jump right into part one, which is all about the setup.
And it actually starts with a mistake, or, well, what looks like a mistake.
Yeah, the quote that kicks us off here is, "I was being cagey."
Right. I was being cagey. So to give some context, this session was not supposed to happen on a Friday at all. Seth usually came through on Mondays and Wednesdays. And in a previous session, Seth had made a prediction that witnesses or guests would arrive for the Wednesday session.
But Wednesday comes around and the room is empty. No guests show up. It is just Jane and Rob.
Crickets. Just completely empty. So naturally, the people involved are skeptical. They're probably thinking, okay, the all-knowing spirit got the calendar wrong. Maybe this whole thing is nonsense.
And Rob, who acts as the scribe for these sessions, actually presses Seth on this. He straight up challenges him and asks, hey, you said people were coming Wednesday. What happened?
And this is where we get that first really clear glimpse of Seth's personality. He doesn't apologize at all. He doesn't crumble under the questioning. He just says, I was being cagey. I merely said their attendance was possible. My time elements were simply off here, unfortunately.
I love that he just admits it. He isn't claiming to be infallible. He is just like, yeah, my timing was a little off. But using the word cagey implies he did it on purpose, or at least that he was being intentionally vague.
And apparently Jane smiled broadly when she delivered that line in trance. But here's where the mechanics of it get really interesting. Seth had predicted 4 or perhaps 5 people would be involved.
Okay, let us do the head count for Friday night. We have Rob and Jane, of course, but the guests are the Gallaghers. That is Bill and Peggy and the Wilburs, Marilyn, and Don. So that is 4 guests.
4 guests. And later in the session, and this is a bit of a spoiler, a 5th person drops by completely unexpectedly. So the actual count was entirely accurate. The specific people were accurate. The event happened. It just happened 48 hours later than our linear calendars expected.
So what was totally accurate, but the when was blurry.
This is a constant theme with Seth, and it is really important to understand the mechanics at play here. Seth talks all the time about how time is not the rigid ruler we think it is. To him, events are probabilities. He saw the cluster of people. He saw the energy of the gathering. But pinning it to Wednesday versus Friday on a human calendar, that is where the translation glitch happens.
It is kind of like looking at a map and seeing a mountain in the distance, but not knowing exactly how many minutes it will take to drive there. The mountain is incredibly real, but the ETA is just an estimate.
That is a perfect analogy. Seth perceives the intensity of the event far more clearly than clock time. And I think his humor about it, calling himself cagey, shows he is not afraid of looking a little human. He is playing with them. He prefers to deal in probabilities anyway, not absolute determinism, because he absolutely does not want to infringe on their free will.
Right, because if he told them exactly when to come, they might feel forced to be there. Speaking of things that aren't quite what they seem, let us move to the corner of the room. This is part 2, the portrait. And this part of the transcript actually gave me a genuine chill.
Oh, it is a little spooky for sure. So Rob Jane's husband is a commercial artist. That is his day job. And back in July of 1965, which is about 8 months prior to this particular session, he had painted a portrait of an elderly man. He didn't use a model or anything. It was just an image he had in his head. But Seth later claimed that this painting was a likeness of him, or at least the persona he adopts for them.
So it is essentially a portrait of Seth. And before the session even starts, Bill Gallagher, one of the guests, is just staring at this thing.
The notes say he spent about 45 minutes just contemplating this oil painting.
45 minutes. That is an incredibly long time to look at anything that isn't a glowing screen.
It really is. And Bill tells Rob that this painting has a peculiar, alive quality. He absolutely insists it is not just a trick of the lighting in the room. He says he doesn't believe it is just the power of suggestion either. He literally feels something coming off the canvas.
Now, usually we would just dismiss that, right? We would say, oh, the eyes follow you around the room. That is just a standard optical illusion in portrait art. But once Jane goes into the trance, Seth addresses it immediately.
He validates Bill's experience completely. He says it wasn't an illusion at all. It was an act of emotional perception.
Emotional perception. Let us unpack that a bit. How is that different from just looking really hard at something?
Well, Seth explains that Bill was perceiving Seth's actual presence projected into the painting. But the key takeaway here, the really vital distinction Seth makes, is between intellect and emotion.
How so?
Seth notes that prior to this evening, Bill was intrigued by the sessions intellectually. He thought, oh, this is a cool theory. This is an interesting philosophy. He was analyzing it with his brain.
He was being a student. He was keeping the whole phenomenon at arm's length.
Exactly. But staring at that painting, that was the very first time Bill felt an emotional rapport. He felt the reality of Seth in his gut, not just in his head.
That is such a powerful distinction. I think we all do that in our own lives. We read about concepts, we study them, we listen to deep dives about them, but until you have that visceral first-hand experience, you don't really know it.
It is the difference between reading a menu and actually eating the meal. Bill finally took a bite. Seth teaches that physical objects are essentially just energy held together by consciousness. Because Rob painted it with a connection to Seth, and Bill viewed it with intense emotional focus. A circuit was basically completed. Bill downloaded the presence.
So the painting acted like a battery or a transmitter.
A focal point, really. If Bill had just glanced at it casually on his way to the couch, it would have been just canvas and oil. Because he brought the emotional intensity, the painting essentially woke up for him.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It suggests that we can interact with inanimate objects if we just use the right kind of attention.
It is the whole basis of what Seth calls value fulfillment or emotional reality. We enliven the world around us with our focus.
So the stage is really set now. You have the painting feeling alive, you have the open windows, you have the warm breeze in March. But even with all that atmosphere, Seth knows the room isn't fully sold on him.
Oh, absolutely not. And this brings us right to part 3, which is all about skepticism. Seth is very aware of the vibe in the room. He actively calls them out. He says essentially, I know you all still doubt me. And he includes everyone in that, the Gallaghers, the Wilburs, and even Jane herself.
That dynamic always fascinates me. Jane, the actual medium channeling the material, is the biggest skeptic in the room.
She was terrified for a long time that she was just making the whole thing up. She constantly worried it was a secondary personality or a schizoid break or just her subconscious acting out some elaborate play.
And Seth knows all this. Does he get offended by it?
Not at all. He is supremely confident. He actually predicts that in the future they will have interactions with psychologists and scientists who will try to study Jane and Seth.
And he says, I know how their minds work.
That is the exact quote. He says that when these scientists think they have him all pinned down as just a secondary personality or some subconscious trick, he is going to offer them a surprise or a demonstration.
A demonstration that will embarrass the skeptics, but ultimately lead to understanding. I just love the swagger there. It is not a defensive posture at all. It is like a grandmaster chess player telling a novice, go ahead, make your move, I have already won.
It shows he welcomes the scrutiny, he wants the intellectual battle, he is not hiding in the dark, demanding blind faith.
But then right in the middle of this very high-level discussion about the nature of consciousness and science, we get a very grounded, very funny moment involving a truck driving by outside.
The traffic joke, this is one of my absolute favorite moments because it shows his personality so incredibly clearly. So the windows are open, right? It is a warm night. And Rob, being the practical scribe he is, interrupts Seth. He is worried that the street noise is going to drown out Jane's voice for the recording or for the guests.
Which is a totally valid concern for someone keeping the records. He wants a clean audio track.
And how does Seth react to being told to speak up?
Well, he doesn't whisper. The notes say his voice immediately rises in volume. He gets noticeably loud, and he declares humorously, I will never be drowned out by traffic.
That is such a diva moment. I love it.
It is so great. It shows he is fully present. He isn't some distant spirit channeling from the ether who is completely unaware of the physical environment. He is right there in the room. He hears the truck. He hears Rob. And he's going to make sure he is the loudest thing happening.
It really creates this vibe of a personality that is witty, slightly arrogant, in a very charming way, and very much in control of the situation. He is not a delicate ghost that vanishes if a floorboard creaks.
Quite the opposite, actually. And that control extends to his ability to perceive things about the guests that they haven't even told Jane about. This is where we transition into what I like to call Dr. Seth.
Part 4, Dr. Seth. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the entire session for me because it is just so incredibly specific. We aren't talking about healing energy in some vague aura sense. We are talking about literal vertebrae mechanics.
So Peggy Gallagher, one of the guests, has been suffering. She has what she calls bursitis in her left shoulder and arm. She says it tingles constantly like it is asleep.
And usually if you go to a doctor for something like that, especially back in the 60s, they would tell you it is a circulation issue. Take some aspirin and rest it.
And Peggy thought it was circulation too. But Seth interrupts. He gives an unsolicited medical diagnosis. He says, no, it is not a disease of the circulation. He pinpoints the issue to the third, fourth, and fifth vertebrae.
He gets specific with the spinal column. He says it is tension affecting those specific vertebrae, which is then compressing the area and making the blood flow difficult. The circulation system itself is perfectly fine. It is just being blocked by a mechanical tension.
So he has identified the root cause. Now for the prescription. And this is where it gets wild. He starts analyzing her daily sleep habits.
He tells her outright, you sleep on your left side. And Peggy denies it. She says, no, I don't think I do.
And Seth pushes back on that.
He insists. He says she does it after she falls asleep, which is something we can't really know about ourselves, right? Unless you set up a camera in your bedroom.
True, we have no idea what we do once we are out. So his solution for her is autosuggestion. He tells her to give herself a mental suggestion right before bed, basically just telling herself, I will sleep on my right side. He says this simple act will remove the pressure.
Then he moves to her work habits. He says you lean on your left elbow at work.
And Peggy admits this one. She works at a newspaper office and she realizes, yes, she actually does lean on that left elbow while she is sitting at her desk.
So we have sleep posture and work posture. But then comes the chemical advice. This was the real aha moment of the episode for me. The coffee prescription.
This is completely fascinating. Seth tells her specifically, do not take aspirin.
Which is the exact opposite of what any doctor would say for pain and inflammation.
Exactly. Seth explains that in this specific case, and I really want to emphasize that this is for Peggy's specific condition, not general advice for everyone, the aspirin would actually hinder the necessary flow because of the type of congestion involved. It acts as a depressant or a thinner in a way that wouldn't help break the block at all.
And instead of aspirin, what does he prescribe?
2 cups of coffee at breakfast.
2 cups, not 1. 2.
She usually drank 1. Seth says drink 2. His logic is that the extra caffeine will stimulate the circulation in just the right way to break through that tension block in the vertebrae.
I just love that so much. Put down the aspirin and double your espresso.
It highlights something really important about the Seth Material's view on health. It is highly individualized. There's no one-size-fits-all remedy. For Peggy at that moment, caffeine was the medicine. For someone else, it might be the exact reverse. He is looking at her specific physiology and the actual physics of the fluid dynamics in her body.
And he is not done with her yet either. He moves from her desk habits to her morning exercise routine, the yoga correction.
This is impressive, because Jane had no idea about this. Peggy does yoga in the morning.
Which is generally considered good, right? Yoga is healthy.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
But Seth critiques how she is doing it. He says she is doing her neck rolls way too fast.
Because she's rushing to get to work.
Exactly. She is trying to squeeze in her mindfulness before the morning commute. We have all been there. Speedrunning our relaxation. I will be relaxed in 3 minutes or else.
Right. And Seth explains the physical mechanics of why this is bad for her. He says when she does the neck roll and drops her head forward at the end because she's doing it quickly and with momentum using centrifugal force, essentially, she is putting sudden, intense strain on those exact same vertebrae, the third to the fifth.
So the very thing she is doing to help herself, the yoga is actually hurting her because of the way she is executing it.
Hurried yoga is detrimental. That is the exact takeaway. He tells her to slow down. If she can't do it slowly, she shouldn't do it at all, essentially.
It is such a practical lesson. It is not just about doing the activity, it is about the intention and the execution behind it.
Yeah.
You really can't rush well-being.
And notice how he connects it all together. The sleep position, the leaning at the desk, the hurried yoga. It is a holistic view of her physical habits that are collectively creating this bursitis. It is not some random illness that struck her down. It is a direct result of her daily mechanical choices.
It really empowers the listener, doesn't it? It means you aren't just a helpless victim of a bad back. You are an active participant in creating it, which means you can be an active participant in fixing it too.
Exactly. So we have covered the art critic, the skeptic silencer, and the doctor. Now we have to talk about Seth as the career counselor. This is part 5, the case of Don Wilbur.
This story is the one that really deals heavily with the spooky side of precognition.
Set the stage for us on this one.
So back in November of 1965, which is several months before this session took place, Seth had given Don Wilbur some very specific information about a future job. Don was looking for a change. He was pretty unhappy where he was.
And this wasn't vague stuff like, I see new horizons for you.
No, not at all. Seth described a specific building, the exact layout of the offices inside, and a specific man that Don would eventually talk to.
And what did Don do with this highly valuable intel?
Well, he wrote it down, and then he and his wife completely lost the notes. They totally forgot about it. Life got busy. Don stayed at his old job through the winter. The prediction just completely fell off their radar.
I feel like that detail is significant. They didn't artificially make it happen. They didn't go looking for the building to fulfill the prophecy. They forgot it even existed.
Right. Fast forward to March 1966, the week of this current session. Don finally decides to go job hunting in Elmira. He answers an ad in the local paper for a construction firm.
He drives to the address.
And as he pulls onto the property, he gets that massive feeling of deja vu. He realizes, I know this place. The building matches Seth's description perfectly. He walks inside, and the office layout matches. He meets the man he's supposed to interview with, and the man matches the physical description too.
That moment must be terrifying and exhilarating at the exact same time. Walking into a scene that a ghost described to you 4 months ago.
And the fact that they had lost the notes makes it even more compelling. It completely removes the possibility of them unconsciously steering themselves toward it. It just happened.
So does Seth tell him to take the job?
This is interesting. Seth gives advice, but he heavily emphasizes free will. Don's parents are apparently very much against him changing jobs. They want him to stay put and play it safe.
Classic parental pressure.
Seth advises Don to completely ignore the pressure. He says Don should leave his current job because there is zero advancement there. But, and here's the long-term prediction part, he says this new job isn't the end game.
Oh.
Seth predicts that Don will try 3 other positions before he settles into one he really genuinely likes.
So he is predicting a period of instability or exploration for him.
Yes, he is saying take the leap, leave the dead-end job, but don't expect the very next one to be perfect. You have a few stepping stones to go.
It is very nuanced career advice. It is not just follow your bliss. It is more like you are going to bounce around a bit, and that is perfectly okay.
And again, he emphasizes that Don must make his own decisions. Seth can see the probabilities, he can see the building, the sequence of jobs, but Don has to be the one to actually sign the contract.
It brings us right back to that idea of probabilities versus predetermined fate. The path is there, but you still have to choose to walk it.
So the session is rolling along. We have had medical diagnoses, career counseling, art appreciation, and then just like that, it is over.
Part 6, the interruption. It is past midnight now, and suddenly a friend of the Roberts, someone who doesn't know anything about the sessions, drops by.
Who drops by a friend's house after midnight?
Hey, it was the 60s, maybe the local bars had just closed, but this friend walks in and the session has to end abruptly so they don't have to explain Jane being in a trance.
But wait, let us do the math on this. We had the 2 Gallaghers, we had the 2 Wilburs, that is 4 guests, and now this friend shows up.
That is the 5th person.
So Seth's prediction of 4 or perhaps 5 people being involved was 100% accurate.
It really was. The head count was flawless. The cagey nature of the timing was the only hiccup, but the actual outcome was incredibly precise.
I just love that the universe, or Seth, orchestrated that final little "I told you so" right at the buzzer.
It is a perfect bookend to the night.
So looking back at this entire session, what are we really seeing here?
I think we are seeing a demonstration of how the mystical is actually just physics we don't quite understand yet. Well, think about the painting. We would normally call it haunted or alive. Seth calls it emotional perception and energy projection. Think about the bursitis. We call it bad luck or aging. Sinek calls it tension mechanics and habitual posture. Think about the job hunt. We call it a wild coincidence. Seth calls it interacting with probabilities.
He is basically demystifying the magic while simultaneously making the mundane magical.
Exactly. He is showing them that their thoughts, their daily emotions, their habits, these things are actively creating their physical reality. The painting holds energy because Bill put his focused attention on it. Peggy's shoulder hurts because she physically tenses against her day. Don finds the job because the probability existed and he aligned himself with it.
It empowers you. It means you aren't just a victim of a bad back or a terrible job market. You are an active participant in all of it.
And you are an active participant who should probably drink more coffee and slow down your yoga routine.
Amen to that.
But really, the overall vibe of this session is what stays with me. It is the warmth of it. It is not some scary seance with chains rattling in the dark. It is friends helping friends with one of those friends just happening to be a non-physical energy essence.
And a friend who absolutely won't let a passing truck talk over him. So here's my final provocative thought for you, the listener. If a painting can hold a physical presence just because someone stared at it with emotion, and if a ghost can accurately diagnose your bad yoga form from another dimension, how much of your daily, boring, mundane life is actually being influenced by unseen mechanics right now?
Is your back pain just back pain? Is that feeling of deja vu just a brain glitch? Or are you actually seeing the gears of reality turning?
If his deep dive sparked your curiosity, and I really hope it did, we strongly encourage you to go to the source. Don't just take our word for it. Study the Seth Material books for yourself.
You can find them at the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. That is sethcenter.com/the-early-sessions. Go there, read the actual transcripts. There's so much more depth than we can ever cover in an hour.
The books are dense, they're funny, and they will absolutely change how you look at the world around you.
And remember, if you start hearing voices, just make sure they give you good career advice or correct your posture.
Sound advice. Until next time, keep your neck rolls slow, your coffee strong, and your mind open.
Goodbye, everyone.
Catch you on the next deep dive.